Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. In this video, we will be diving into the Qor watercolor paints that I've previously unboxed on my channel for you. I really want to see what these watercolors can do because I've been quite excited to get my hands on them. So now that they're finally here, I'm going to swatch all of the 24 colors out in the watercolor sketchbook that I use for swatches only at the moment, which is the one you see down below. It's a nice big size, so I can fit a lot of colors on the same page. Now this palette, as you might have seen in the unboxing, comes with a pretty nifty top that you can also use as a palette for mixing your colors on. The set has 24 colors ranging from the yellows, the reds, the pinks, the violets, the blues, greens, and also then the neutrals. It also includes a white, which is fine, but I don't think I'll be using that much. But let's jump into it. So as I am showing you here, it is a 190 GSM watercolor paper in the size A3, which is a standard size in Europe. I'm not sure if that's used everywhere, probably not, but that's what I'll be using. So as you can see, I wrote down the names and the information of the pigments and the quality of the paints as mentioned by Qor already in this book. I'll be using my Raphael Precision flat brush, size 12, to get some really nice swatches. As you may notice halfway, I did skip over some of the colors because I forgot to turn the camera on, so that was pretty silly, but you will still see the colors as I have swatched them out, and later I will also be giving you a close-up, so you will be seeing the colors in all its glory. The first color I'm swatching out here is the cadmium yellow primrose. To avoid bleeding into one another, I skip a swatch space and go in with the color that's mentioned there. Only this time I did skip one swatch space, but I still put the nickel azo yellow in quinacridone gold's place. So you will actually see me put a little arrow towards, that it needed to be vice versa when I notice it. Pretty silly, but this color that you're seeing on the screen right now being swatched is actually the Nickel Azo Yellow by Qor. Now, one of the qualities of watercolor is that it has something called flow, which is the ability of the paint and the pigments to spread out over the paper. And Qor's very well known for having high flow, which means it just flies across that paper. So that's why I actually wet the paper first to get very nice view of how much the flow actually does with these paints. And whilst it's also there with this transparent pyrrole orange, you will actually notice it more with some of the coming colors. So here I swatch out the Permanent Scarlet, which already has a bit more flow that's more obvious than with the transparent pyrrole orange you just saw. This space is meant for the quinacridone magenta, which is made up of pigment PR122 or 122, and it has a high tinting strength, and I believe this was one that went crazy with the flow. Yeah, you can see right there. It was absurd. It just flew across the paper. So I can't wait to try and use this in a painting and see how it actually works, because swatches are nice to get a feel for the color but are never really representative of how to use them in paintings and how it will behave, especially when using different watercolor paper that you make the art on. Like I said, I don't actually use this paper for art, I just use it for swatches because it's cellulose paper, the quality is a little lower, and it's not as thick, so it's prone to buckling. Now next up is the ultramarine blue, which is PB29 with the Qor range, and it has a medium tinting strength and it has a little less flow. It does have some granulation, but I've seen ultramarine blue that actually granulates more than I've seen this pigment do with the Qor watercolors. Now on the screen I do notice that it is quite bright, this ultramarine blue, and like watercolors are known to do, they do dry matte and a little less vibrant, even though Qor actually does market these colors as super vibrant and are also known as a very vibrant brand of watercolors. That also may be due to the type of paper I'm using, so can't wait to try this on other papers too. This is the phthalo blue-green shade, high tinting strength. It's the pigment PB15:3, and as you can see, it also flew across the paper. It made me so happy. It just really makes me want to paint abstracts with just all the flow letting loose and letting the watercolor just play across the paper. Now this swatch base will actually feature the Viridian Green, medium tinting strength. It does have some granulation, and this is the pigment PG18. Doesn't flow as much as the phthalo blue shade that we just saw. Also, the granulation is there, but it's not super pronounced, which again may be in combination with this paper. Now, Qor's Green Gold is made of pigment PY129, so 129. It is medium in tinting strength, and it's supposed to be totally transparent. This color shows a little bit more flow than we just saw, which is very nice. It's also very nice that I have this footage so that I can always refer back to it if I'm in doubt as to what colors really flew across the paper and which colors stayed in place a little bit more. Perhaps when I'm experimenting with that abstract flowy watercolor that I just mentioned, this makes me want to do. Now this will be the space for burnt sienna, natural. It's medium tinting strength, half or semi-transparent, and it's made up of PBR7, which is also a granulating pigment. As you can see, it does have some flow, but not as prone as the other colors, and again, the granulation is not very strong, in my opinion. The Qor watercolors flow so nicely is actually their binder. They don't use gum arabic, they use aquasol, which I think they're the only one in the industry that actually uses that right now. So maybe it's patented and nobody else can use it, but that makes the colors flow so incredibly nicely. Now it can be quite difficult as a beginning watercolor artist to control this paint because it is so prone to just go everywhere. So water control and paint control is something you really need to have a handle on before trying these types of paints. It can be a little difficult, but I mean, just because it's difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't try it if it's something that you think you would like. This color that I just swatched out was the Van Dyke Brown. It has high tinting strength, it is also granulating, and it is made up of pigment PR 101. The color you're seeing right now is Neutral Tint by Qor. It is made up of 3 pigments, PUI 42, PR 122, PB 15:3. It is high tinting strength and it is also granulating. Now this is the part where you can see that I swatched out a lot of colors with the idea that my camera was actually recording. Needless to say, it wasn't, and I was super bummed, but I included the footage from here on out anyway because I didn't want to keep the other colors from you, and I couldn't really go back and do this all over again without wasting paper and paint, so I figured let's just try it this way and you at least get a good view of what the colors are. Next up in the swatches is Raw Umber, and it is called Raw Umber Natural with Qor. It is made up of PBR 7, it is granulating, and it has a medium tinting strength and is supposed to be semi-opaque, which I would say is pretty accurate. Now, swatching out the last color that you will actually get a good view of via the camera is the Payne's Gray. It's high tinting strength and it is made up of 3 pigments, the PB 15:3, the PBK 7, the PV 19. So it is a combination of colors. It is non-granulating and semi-opaque. Next up is a color that is hard for you guys to see, especially when dry. You actually do see it a bit while I'm swatching it out. I did have some trouble with the swatching though because I did go over the black line that I made for the measurement of opacity in paint, but I did go over that quite a couple of times with the paint and the wet brush. And while it is pretty waterproof, it did tend to bleed a little bit into the white, which immediately showed. So it looked a bit bluish, grayish at the top, which is totally the marker in combination with the paints and not the white itself. So let's look at all these yummy rainbow colors, excluding the top 4 right there because they were not in the Qor palette. And these are the colors that you get when you purchase the Qor 24 basic set. So it's a nice range and the palette looks super cute even if it's covered in paint. Maybe even more cute because it's covered in paint. Just makes it look so happy. Now with this range of colors, I did already mention that I found some colors to dry not as vibrant as I expected them to, and sometimes even they look a little bit chalky. I don't know what caused it. It really might be the paper. I'm kind of guessing it's the paper because these watercolors are actually pretty high standard and recommended by a lot of artists. So I will be looking forward to using these in actual art and on different paper. Of course, I will share that art and the results with you guys. So that was it, the swatching of the 24 Qor watercolors. Again, I'm so sorry that I missed some of the recording, but I hope you found this useful anyway. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more of this type of content, leave me a like and subscribe to my channel. Every subscriber is highly appreciated. Thanks. Bye.